evening. Welcome to this session. This is Django Fridays. This is another session of where we get to learn about technologies that we use in development using Django. I know we are waiting for like another 5 minutes, another 3 minutes for more people to join so that we can have some quorum. Okay, but I'll just introduce you to what Speciatech is and what Speciatech is doing, what our programs are, how to get to us, how to reach us. Okay. First thing, at Speciatech, we are a community of developers. We are a community of techies, not necessarily developers, because we have people who are doing also the DevOps. We have various backgrounds. So we are a community that we want to nurture devs, our techies. We want to create an ecosystem whereby we get to learn from each other, we get to share experiences, we get to uplift each other in the tech scene. So at Speciatech, we have initiatives that we want to run during this year so that we get to achieve some of these goals. I think I'll welcome who? Hi Juma, are you at liberty to greet us or say something?
This is not Juma. I'm joining in with Speciatech. My name is Fred Uko, the founder of Speciatech. So I joined in today just to listen into these recordings and these sessions, but also because I think Juma had some problems with these gadgets, so I joined in to record using our official account. But thank you so much, Jimmy, and thank you so much, Imran Barassa, for making this session possible today. And I hope that all of us are going to find the session valuable and that we can come back for more. Over to you, Jimmy.
Okay, thank you, Fred. I wasn't expecting you. I also see Juma is also here. Juma, you are.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, Juma.
I hope your day was good. My day was somehow good too. Ups and down kidogo with my gadgets, but I'll try and go back to the speed up.
Okay,
back to you.
It's all right. For today's session, as you were seeing, we have Imran. Imran will be sharing with us a session on, what do we call it? Let me just share it again. On custom middleware. Yeah, this is the custom middlewares that we use in Django. So I hope it will be an interactive session. So if you have any question, you can also engage us from the chat, or you can raise your hand when it's viable. So I'll take this chance to introduce Imran. Imran, you can introduce yourself to the group.
So hi everyone. My name is Imran Barassa, and I am a Fulstack software developer dealing with Django and some JavaScript frameworks such as React for the front end. And I am also a member of Speciatech, and I am here to talk about custom middleware in Django. So yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So I don't know if I should just start or.
Yeah, you can just start off. Maybe.
Or should we wait like 2 minutes? We start at 8:10. Okay, 1 minute now.
Okay, it's all right. So with Imran, we've been working with Imran on some project here at Speciatech. This is a blog project. It's a Django project that we are working on. So we currently doing the backend. So the front end is also underway. But if you want open source projects to work on, I think you can reach us maybe from tomorrow, as we'll be having a session at the Oscar Nairobi, the Oscar Nairobi. So if you'd want to learn more about open source, you could reach us maybe from this evening, so that we can share with you on how to be part of the event. We'll be sharing the links maybe to our contacts, maybe email. Juma will share some links for some groups, WhatsApp group, or some phone contacts for that matter. Okay. Okay, Imran, you can now take the stage. The stage is yours.
Okay, thanks. Can you guys see my screen? Hello?
Yeah, it's visible.
Oh, okay. So, as I had introduced myself earlier, my name is Imran Barissa, and I'm here to talk about middleware in Django. So, these are the contents of the presentation. We'll first start with what is middleware, and I will define. And as you can see there, I will also talk about the types of middleware, how middleware works, middleware configuration, and some best practices for middleware. So on to the first section. What is middleware? So for you to understand middleware, you first have to look at a crucial component in Django Web Framework that allows developers to modify or inspect incoming requests and outgoing responses. So it has to deal with the request response cycle. And we'll first take a look at the request response cycle, where a user sends a request to a Django web application, and then the request is first processed by the server, which then passes it on to the Django framework for processing. And then once the request reaches the Django framework, it goes through a series of stages, or we can just call them layers, for example. And in the request response cycle, each layer performs a specific task, such as routing the request to the appropriate view, processing the request data, or generating a response to send back to the user. So the middleware kind of sits between some of these layers. And this can be well illustrated by using a table. For example, this diagram here. So our user sends a request to our server, but before our server hits any view function, it first has to go through the middleware. And this is where the request is intercepted. You can do some processing here. For example, authenticating the user, logging the requests, or maybe sending messages. And after that is when now the request can be sent back as a response, so that the user can be able to check whatever they are getting. Now, we can compare middleware to the other components, such as the models, the views, templates, and middleware fits into the overall architecture of a Django application by providing a way for you to modify or inspect incoming requests and outgoing responses before they reach the views. So the middleware allows you also to interact with other components of the Django framework. And moving on, we can go to now the types of middleware. So the types of middleware are three. We have built-in middleware, such as authentication, sessions, or the ones, as you can see from this image here. we also have third-party middleware, ones provided by packages that you have to install. For example, Django cause headers, Django debug toolbar, and all other third-party packages that you have to install. But you can also choose to create your own middleware. And this is where we talk about now custom middleware. For example, you can use your middleware for logging, to cache, and for you to modify the request response cycle. You can also use middleware to do the same thing that third-party middleware does. If you don't want to have the hassle of security vulnerabilities or adding a third-party package, you can make your own custom middleware to do the same thing that the third-party middleware does. And this brings us to now the how to write custom middleware. Custom middleware can be written in two ways, and this is a function and a class. So we'll just take a look at the code. Just a second. Yeah. So I had already started a project to show you guys how you can create your own custom middleware. And I have written some examples here, some really simple examples. So first of all, to explain the structure of a middleware, it can either be written as a class or it can be written as a function. But as we all know, it is easier for you to manipulate data that is written as a class in Django. So if you write it as a class, you have to look at the init. You have to instantiate your class by using the init method, the constructor, and then you also have to use the call method. So we have a class-based one written here, and this one explains the structure. So I don't think I should go through everything that is entailed there, but we'll just explain bit by bit. So the first method is the init method, and it is the constructor for the Python class. And it is called only once at the time the server starts up. And it gets the get response. Now, this function, the get response as a parameter, which is passed by Django itself when we add it inside the middleware list. So for you to activate such a middleware, you have to add it to your settings.py file, and then you can scroll to where it says middleware. You add it there to the middleware section. And it is good to differentiate built-in middleware and custom-made middleware. And something to note is that the order of the middleware is very important because middleware can depend on other middleware. For example, the authentication middleware, this one, the auth middleware, depends on session middleware to store the authenticated user in session by using request.session user. If you have written Django code, you'll understand what that does. It gets the current user in the session, and therefore it must
Hello,
be placed.
Imran.
Yes.
Sorry for interception.
Yeah. Am I moving too fast?
There's a request for you to zoom your screen for.
Oh, sorry.
Why?
Can that be seen now? Oh, is that fine? Okay. So, for
Now you can
example,
reply with an emoji to confirm that you're fine.
oh, sorry, I can't see whatever they are saying, so you'll just
Yeah,
have to tell me.
it's okay.
Yeah. So as I was saying, the authentication middleware requires for you to have the session middleware. So order is important. So you have to first of all get the session and then get the user here, so that when you try to access the user by, say, writing request.session and then user, you can be able to access the user from that, because it is stored in the sessions. So this is how you activate whatever middleware you have written in the middleware module, and you have to call it from the path. So for me, my app is named snippets, and then from snippets you go to the file named middleware, and then from there now you call the specific class. And if it was function based, you do the same thing, so you call the specific function. Yeah, and if you want to do the same project, you can get it from the Django REST framework tutorial, where it teaches you how to use the package. Okay, since we have already activated our middleware, now our class-based middleware, we can try and check how it interacts with our system. So the class-based middleware, this one, simple middleware, is just supposed to check if a response has gone through our system. So it will print before the response, and then it will also print after the response. This is what determines what it will print. So whatever you are writing in your middleware and you want it to be executed, you have to write it in the call method. So let's just run our server. Yeah, I think I had an error in my system, which makes it load slowly, a bit slow. Okay, that is taking too long. So in the meantime, okay. Yeah, so we can check what this prints out according to our middleware here. So it is supposed to print just before the response is given, and then print after the response has been given. So we can comment out the function-based middleware and leave the class-based middleware. And I think I just made things worse because we have to wait for this to reload again. Okay. So I hope you guys will be able to see my screen once I split it. So we'll open our server here and check whatever it prints on the terminal. So we'll just go to one of the URLs there, snippets, and then we'll see we have already checked, and as you can see, the middleware is working. So it prints just before the response is given, and then it also prints after the response has been given. And as you can see here, middleware usually runs before the page has been loaded. And that is why the printed responses are just before the page has been loaded. So we can also retry this again and check. Yeah, so before the response and after the response. You can use this method to do a lot of cool things instead of just printing. For example, you can choose to write your own authentication package instead of using the inbuilt authentication if you really want something custom. Yeah, so let's check on another example of a middleware. So moving on to the function-based middleware. This one is just a simple function, and there is no inheritance using self or get response, but you also have to call get response from Django, and it does the same thing. So if we comment out this one and then uncomment the function-based one, you should able to see that it does the same thing. It's just that it is a function-based middleware. So we'll just reload this page. Let's give it a second. Okay. Yeah, so let's reload this page and you'll see it will print here before the response and after the response. But this printing will just come before the page has been loaded, because that is how middleware works. It is in between. You could also try to do some validation in there. So before the response and after the response, and then now the page has been loaded with status 200. So to another example, you can write middleware to add custom headers in your response. So for example, here I am adding a custom header named X custom header and hello from middleware. So for us to be able to activate this middleware, we have to write it in the settings.py file. So I'll just copy this here and then go to our file and add it here. So snippets.middleware. That. So we added a class-based middleware named header middleware. And for us to be able to check what it prints, we have to look at the response from this page. So it is supposed to give us a custom header named X custom header with the hello from middleware. So let me maximize this and open the developer console. So as I reload the page, we'll get to see some information here. And our custom header is named X custom header hello from middleware. So we can also use this technique to add now cause headers instead of using the package Django CORs. So it is the same technique. So let's do another example. We could write a custom middleware to check for us how much time it takes for the server to get a response. So let's maximize this and write our custom middleware. So we first have to import time here. And then we'll just write it at the bottom here. Class timing. So currently I am creating our middleware that will check the time it takes for it to get a response from the server. And you can also use it to validate data, check users, cache some pages. So middleware tends to be cool in that sense. You can do anything that your mind thinks of. For example, in caching, instead of it getting a whole new page, you can check if the page had already been cached and respond with that page so that you don't make so many calls to your server, for example. So remember the structure. You have to use the call method for you to write whatever you want to get executed. So we'll write here start time equals to time.time. Yeah. So let's just comment what we are doing here. We are recording the start time of the request. And then now after that, you have to call the response because this is the key here. So you get that from Django. With the request. And then the next part, we have now to record the end time. Time.time. After that, now we do our calculation. We have to calculate the total time for the request. So some simple mathematics here. Total time equals to end time minus start time. And then now we'll add it as a custom header to our response so that we can be able to see, or we could choose to print it. Either way, it still works. So you can use this middleware to check how fast your system is, or if you had added some tests or maybe some functionality, you can use it to test how that functionality responds with your system. So we'll call it request time. Let's print it as a string, total time. And then now you have to return the response. So after adding that, you have to now activate your middleware by adding it to your settings.py file. So I'll just copy this and then copy this here and add it here. So now we can check what time it prints. So it will print maybe in seconds, or if our system is a bit slow, it will take minutes. So let's just check on that. So refresh. Okay, seems like our system did not reload. So let's just wait for it to reload. Okay, so now we can go and check the time it takes for it to respond. So we are looking for X request time. If you can see it. Okay, let me refresh this again. Okay, request time, it's in milliseconds, so it is 0.116. So maybe you wanted your system to respond even faster. You can now try and make some changes while checking the time that it prints for you here. So yeah, and then we could also check some other middleware that I haven't activated here, but I had written earlier. For example, we have a middleware for throttling here. So instead of using a package, you could actually write your own custom code that you can define everything. So for my system, I don't currently have a user, so we won't be able to test this, but it's the same functionality. So it will take the user and check how many times the user has accessed our system, and it will forbid them from accessing our system if they made 10 or more requests. You can also change these parameters. And then there is also another middleware for cause headers. You can choose to add a custom one. It is the same as the package and what it does, but you can choose to do it yourself. So this one will allow all origins. It will also allow the methods and the content type. Yeah. And then another one was for logging. You can use your system to log requests made to it. For example, you have some highly sophisticated system, maybe a banking system, and you want to keep logs if it is working or not working. And then you could also probably add some functionality to send alerts if the system is off. For example, if it gives you a log here and the log maybe has a request status code of 404 or something or 500, then you know your system is being problematic. You get to work on it in time. And this takes us back from the to the structure of the middleware. So the ones we were using were the init method and the call method, which are the most important methods. But there is also other methods to be considered. For example, the process view, this one here, it is executed just before the view is called. For example, if you are writing code that you want to be executed before a view, maybe to something, or maybe you are dealing with users and you want to add the profile picture or something, you can use this middleware to check if an image has been uploaded or not, for you to now respond with the correct view that the user will see. And another method is the process exception middleware, and this method returns none or a HTTP response object, and it is executed if an exception is raised. For example, if you, like we were checking before here at logging, you could also use this one, process exception. If there is an exception, maybe 500 server error, this method is the one that will run from the middleware. Another method you could use is the process template response. Now, these methods I'm mentioning here are not sufficient. There are other methods, but these ones are the most important ones that you'll be using if you want to create your own. And this method, the template response, is called just after the view has finished executing, and if the response instance has a render method. So if you have a render method, this method will be called. But if you don't, it will not be called. So it is the same as the template response. Ooh, okay. So yeah, so let's move now to best practices while writing middleware. So there is a few best practices for you to write middleware, and this is where some people get it wrong. So you have to use middleware sparingly. This is a best practice, and while working, because middleware sits between different layers of the request response cycle, and it can add overhead and slow down your application if used excessively. So when writing middleware, you have to keep it focused on a specific task and avoid adding too many middleware components to your application. It could make your application slow. As you had seen when we were testing our simple middleware, the one that printed before response and after response, it had to perform the middleware first before it gave us a response. And if you had maybe a lot of code that it had to process in there, then your application could be a bit slow. You should also avoid the global state. So global states can make it difficult to reason about the behavior of your middleware and can lead to unexpected bugs. So instead, you should keep your middleware self-contained and use local state. You should not maybe call other modules from different modules in your application, or calling functions and variables from other parts of your application. You should make your application locally. And then you should also write testable middleware. This is important because it means separating out any external dependencies, such as a database or network service, from the core middleware logic, so that you will be able to easily create mock tests. And additionally, you should write unit tests for your middleware to ensure that it behaves as expected and to catch any regression that may occur. I know some people don't like writing tests, so you might think, why am I writing middleware if I have to also write tests for them? But it is an important aspect. You can write middleware that makes your application well sufficient, and by doing that, you also have to include tests for them, because everything in your application must have tests. Another thing to consider is that you should also document your middleware. You have to make sure to include comments, like I was trying to do, include doc strings in your middleware, and you should also consider writing documentation that explains how to use your middleware and any type of configuration options that are available. Another thing is that you should be mindful of security. So security, it's important to be mindful of security implications, because the middleware has access to incoming requests and outgoing responses, and it could potentially be used to introduce security vulnerabilities into your application. So you should make sure to, first of all, thoroughly review and test any middleware components that handle sensitive data or perform security critical operations. And yeah, that's it. By following these best practices, you can ensure that your middleware is effective, maintainable, and secure. So do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, I might be having a question. I don't know whether I can hold it, or maybe just shoot. You're saying you can write
Okay.
testable middleware. You mentioned writing unit tests.
Yeah.
Is
Yes.
it a must you only write unit test, or you can leverage other test modules?
Also, middleware, just like any other Python module in your application. For example, okay, in Django mostly, you can use any test framework that you want. You could use PyTest, you can use unit tests. So yeah, you can use any test framework that you want, and it will work with them. The same way that you write PyTest, using PyTest to test the models.py page, it's the same way you will write those tests for the middleware. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
are there any more questions? Was I moving too fast, or is there something that I missed that you guys want me to explain?
Okay, let me open it up for interaction. So maybe
Okay.
you said you are telling us the users of middleware. So I want to bring us to maybe a fast paced environment. Maybe in production, how will we leverage the middlewares, so that maybe we want to do some certain function. What functions could we leverage with middleware? Can we leverage on speed, on performance, or we can just use middleware? Okay, that is basically my question.
Okay, is it open to the floor for anyone to answer that?
Yeah, actually, it's open to the floor. It's not necessary. I'm not grilling you.
Okay, because I could answer that, I was just thinking maybe I should let everyone who's here to answer.
It seems the ball falls on your court.
Okay, so you could use middleware to speed up your application. For example, as we talk about here, caching. So instead of your application serving new pages each time a request is made, it could check if if that specific page that is being requested had already been cached before. And if it had been cached before, then it will provide that page to the user. So there will be no overhead costs to the server. And that request will just pass through the middleware and it will not interact with the server. So yeah, I think that is the most important factor there. And as you can see from the built-in middleware here, it is used for authentication services. For example, you have to authenticate the user. So the user makes a request, and before the request hits the server and gets a response, it first of all goes through the middleware where the user is checked if they are authenticated, and if they are not, then they will be told to either create an account or be forbidden from accessing that request, and they will get an error response. Uh, there is also other examples you could get from here. So yeah, that's my answer.
It's quite impressive. I've never thought of using middleware per se before, but I've seen how middleware is used in Django. So it's opening up the scene for using custom middlewares. I've never, so that this is something I can want to get into. Okay, there's someone else is asking a question here. This is new hacker. Can you
Okay.
mix middlewares with built-in middleware? For example, I can add cause middleware at the top of. Okay, maybe I read it a little bit fast. Maybe let me come slow. Can you mix middlewares with built-in middlewares? For example, can I add cause middleware at the top of other middleware? Does it? You got the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So as I was saying earlier, the order is important in middleware, and doing that, maybe the cause middleware requires the user to be logged in or something. If they are not logged in, then the cause middleware will not be able to access the user. So yeah, unless they specifically tell you to add it above all middleware, then you have to do that. Otherwise, you'll have to put it below all the middleware. If they don't tell you anything, then you have to put it below all of them. But if they specifically tell you you have to put it above, then you'll just have to do that, because you might miss some specific data that middleware depends on. Like the example that I had given for the authentication middleware and the sessions middleware. The authentication middleware has to be below the sessions middleware, because the session middleware is the one that will get the user. For example, if you are doing request.session user for you to get the user, then if you put this above, it will not be able to access the current session, and you won't get that user for that session. But otherwise, you'll be able to maybe access all the users, but not the current user. So that is why order is important. Yeah.
I hope new hacker you answered. That was the okay. You also answered it very correctly, because in Python, not only Django, in Python you have to follow a certain order when calling items. So yeah, I think new hacker says he's answered. That's fine. Any other question maybe? Okay. I think you can proceed. Ama, you're done.
Oh yeah. I was done,
No, you're Imran. Okay. So
but I am done. So anyway, you can try and think of any type of middleware that you want to add to your system. An example I could think of is maybe compression middleware to make your system a bit faster. You could compress everything just before a response is being sent. So it will check if that page has been compressed, and it will provide the same page. Otherwise, it will just go with the same response. So your system will tend to be a bit faster.
okay.
So are there any more questions?
Oh yeah, I have a question. Back to mixing middlewares. If you use okay, there's built-in and there's the custom middleware. Can you mix them? Okay, when you're looking at the order, there's a point you said that when you have a custom middleware, you have to like separate it. Now, in that case, do you, as a sort of standard, should you write it as a comment to say this is a custom middleware if it's mixed with built-in middleware?
Okay. According to the books I have read and the code that I have seen from out there in the wild, you have to specify that that is custom middleware for just for best practices. Otherwise, okay, imagine you mixed this and a different user working on your system doesn't know that this is custom middleware. You see, they will be confused. Maybe you have a bug in here and they don't know how to access that or make any different changes. Or they could maybe be trying to access a middleware that doesn't work well with your own. Maybe they come and write it above everything else, and maybe the ones that you had written earlier had more information than the one that they want to add there. So it could be a bit problematic. So you just have to try and specify. Just writing custom middleware. Otherwise, it will be a bit confusing. Yeah.
Maybe
Now,
maybe something. Maybe I add on something to when writing, when commenting out what your middleware is. You can also try to say what your middleware is doing, because it might, the context might help in that when you're trying to add more middleware to your application, and someone has already put a custom middleware like you are doing there. So the function of the middleware, let's say I have another middleware that maybe depends on what you are trying to on your custom middleware. Let's say we are customizing a middleware for authentication, and without implicitly stating there, and I put my middleware on top of it, I'll miss the functionality for whatever your middleware is doing if you don't document it. So I'll miss that functionality. So that is the importance of just stating what your middlewares are doing.
yeah, what you said. I'm just trying to check if it will write suggestions here. But it is good to document your code either way. So you have to write comments here and there for other people to be able to understand your code. And for you, in future, you'll be able to also understand the code that you had written, because you can't remember everything all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. Any more questions?
I think I'll request a comment from Masud. Masud, how are you? Maybe a comment on middlewares, maybe something you've gotten from it. Okay, maybe they are not privy to speak. Okay. My next suspect has just left the meeting. Okay. I think I don't have much. Maybe if someone has something else to add on, maybe something to that needs clarification. Okay, there's a question here on the chat. The question here is it good to avoid writing custom middleware at all cost if you can, because it seems you're not careful, you can mess up? I think maybe I can answer that.
Okay.
If you are not really sure about writing the custom middlewares, it won't be. I won't actually recommend you to do it, because you might end up messing up, as you have actually said. Because with middlewares, these are things that are happening between the call, between, what do we call them? I need a perfect word for it.
Between the response the request response cycle.
So if you aren't sure about what middleware you're writing, you might end up causing your server to crash. You might actually just destroy your entire application.
Yeah.
Okay. And then maybe another question. Okay. I think I've just answered it.
Oh, okay. For example, if you are making a sophisticated app, maybe a web app like Uber, you would obviously require custom middleware in there instead of waiting for all your requests to hit the server and then get a response. You can check for available drivers the before a user get a response. You could maybe check if uh, there are if there is any drivers that are close by. For example, if any drivers have clicked on maybe accept a request, things like that. You could make your system more efficient instead of making it wait for a response from the server all the time. You could write everything that you wanted in the middleware for it to get processed before a response is given. And you could also try and improve your coding styles without including so many packages, because these packages they just end up using more middleware. Maybe they have a lot of code in there that is unnecessary to your system, so you could do it yourself and try and make it more efficient.
Okay, I think that's fine. Imran, maybe
Yeah.
just a quick rundown of what you presented. Just a quick rundown before we close the session. Yeah, yes, just a quick rundown too. I know some people joined later on the session.
Oh, I should talk about what I presented.
As in summary, now you're not presenting once, you're just summarizing.
Okay. Uh-huh. Okay, I don't know where to begin.
Actually, you're in the right place. Actually, a quick rundown is just going through the slides, the most important slides. What are the requirements we need for using middleware. What you've talked about the best practices. What
Yeah.
else have you spoken about? Okay, basically too.
Okay. So we have covered the basics of Django middleware, including what it is and how it works. I hope you guys remember what Django middleware is. Uh, it is what interacts with the layers in Django, in the Django framework. It's between the request response cycle. And we have also discussed some best practices for working with middleware. And then there are three types of middleware. So this is the built-in middleware, third-party middleware. Built-in middleware is what you get to see when you open the settings page here. These are the built-in ones. For example, authentication sessions. Third-party middleware is whatever packages you install that will tell you to add some middleware in your middleware variable. And then there is custom middleware. This is whatever middleware you will create yourself. And for you to add custom middleware, you have to create the middleware.py module in your application. And then we have talked about how you are supposed to write middleware. You can write it as either a function or a class, and it should have the init method, which is the constructor, and it will have the call method. This is where you write the code that you want to be executed. And remember that you also have to use the get response method that is given by Django. And then this is just an illustration of how middleware works. So a request is sent, and it first has to pass through all the middleware that are in your system before it reaches the view function, which is now your server. and then it is processed here and then sent back to the system. It also has to pass through middleware, and you can also change whatever data you wanted to change after it had passed through the view to now response. You can try and maybe rename this to
What just happened? Did Imran just drop, or is it just me?
It's muted.
Maybe it's
Like,
Imran.
yeah, is muted.
Okay. Anyway, I think it was quite an interesting session. Actually, I've never thought of using middlewares to do custom functions. I think this is something that has opened. It's an eye opener for me. So being that I use Django most of the time, so I think I can consider using middlewares for my basic functions. Maybe just logging, maybe just maybe any other thing that I might want to do on Django. Let me see. Are there any new faces here today? Let me see. People left. Okay, for those who don't for those who are here for the first time, we always have these sessions on every Friday. So we talk about technologies that assist us in our development, in our daily development while using Django. So that's why the session is called the Django Fridays. So every Friday you can catch us live from 8 to 9 or 8 to 9:30. So in case you have anything you want to present, you can also reach out. There's a link that is being shared on the chat. I think Juma has shared some link. Okay. Juma, you can also share the links for the WhatsApp group. So maybe for people who might want to join. Oh, he actually shared his number, so you can actually reach him on WhatsApp. So for those who just want to join join these sessions, those people who just want to learn, we also do open source. So in case you want to take part in the projects we are doing, you can also reach out. Okay, Juma, you can say a word. You can say a word before we end it.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys got anything, but I was presenting and I'm just now seeing that I had left.
Well, actually, we got you to some point. You just dropped off, but
Oh,
yeah.
okay. But I had explained the last bit for best practices.
Yeah.
So you have to use your middleware sparingly. Don't just write any middleware. You have to keep it focused. You want to do something, and adding third-party packages also makes it such that you are kind of bloating your system. You could do them on your own, but do it focused and check your code thoroughly. You should also avoid global states. So this means that you should write your code such that it runs locally. You don't have data that is manipulated externally through other modules for them to be received into your middleware module. And then you should write testable middleware. So just make sure to write tests for your middleware to avoid any bugs that might arise in future while you are trying to use your middleware. Then another thing, you should document your middleware. Make sure to add comments where necessary, and you should add actually good comments, not writing there just like this is a middleware. And then you should include doc strings, the ones that have triple quotes. Those are doc strings. Really explain your code, and then you should be mindful of security. So check your code thoroughly to avoid any security vulnerabilities. And yeah, thanks. That's all.
Okay, you're welcome. Maybe I think I will be seeing more of you maybe next time. I now see we have two people running the Speciatech account. I know one is Weshi, I know one is Fred, so I don't know which is which.
One of them is me, Fred. I think the other person is Weshi, maybe.
The other one is Juma. Me.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, it was nice. It was nice having you guys here. We'll see you next Friday for these sessions, the Django Friday sessions. And in case you have something to share with us, just reach out to me or reach out to Juma. We can schedule other sessions as we go down the month. Thank you. I think that's all for today. You have a good night though.